wherever you're tuned in. Joining us on SpiceFM around the country, Nairobi, Mombasa, Kisumu, Nakuru, Eldoret, Nyeri, Malindi, or around the world on SpiceFM KE, YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, or our website www.spicefm.co.ke, or on KTN Home, who've joined us now until the top of the hour. Welcome to Kenya's biggest conversation. CT, today's proverb.
Don't blame God for creating the leopard. Just thank him for not giving it wings.
Don't blame God for creating the leopard. Just thank him for giving it wings.
For not giving it wings.
Not giving it wings.
Eric, am I to understand that the area you come from, they are leopards with wings?
Eh?
You heard me.
Well, I don't hear people blaming God for that's why I'm just... I gave up with your proverb from the first sentence.
Syllable.
Forget
leopard wings.
People blaming God for leopard. Who blames God for anything?
Be shocked too.
But there's I want to blame someone today. You can show us that image again, Ndu, of what was happening along Mombasa Road last night. And this is during this construction of the expressway, right? So the expressway begins at Mlolongo, thereabouts near Gateway Mall.
Yes.
Yeah. Goes all the way to ABC Place. And it's taken away. It's taken over a year. And there's diversions here and there. There's, restriction of traffic. Lanes being reduced to one or two. Others, there's some diversion. You get off the road and then you come back onto the road. And the inconvenience that it causes. And there's all this conversation of persevere the inconvenience. It's for a brighter future. There's some inconvenience that is understandable. And there's some inconvenience that, in my opinion, is just pointing to negligence. It's not inconvenience because this is happening. It's just pure negligence. So, for instance, at that place, you're saying it's near the Nation Printing Plant?
Yeah, Nation Printing Plant. So there's that single lane there. And so what has happened is that part of the road is being dug up. Right. So there's no signage, or rather, is there any diversion signs pointing to the fact that this particular part of the road is being worked on? So what has happened is that a hole has been created in the road, and we've had a vehicle that had now fallen into that part because the road is literally being dug up to provide space for the rest of the expressway to then be constructed. So you have a gaping hole in the middle of the road, and somebody who used that road earlier in the day expected that the road would still be there when they are coming from work in the evening, and voila, they find themselves
it's at
submerged.
night, it's raining, the road is wet.
Visibility is poor.
And then you just go and find end of the road. There
Literally.
you are in a ditch. This happened also a couple of months back. Remember?
Yes.
Near Toyota Kenya.
Yes.
At the Nyayo Stadium roundabout.
Yes.
One morning, they're digging up the road, and then they've announced that, we're going to close a section of the road, but then it's not clear. Somebody who had not seen that sign, that notice on social media does not know, and you're rushing to the airport in the morning. A vehicle went and did the same.
Yes.
Those are extremes. The simple ones of just creating a diversion. You're on this lane, and then there's a diversion for 50 meters, you come back to the lane. But that diversion is completely immotorable. And you're asking yourself, so if you cannot really just create a smooth diversion, what are we talking about, an inconvenience? Or are we just talking about negligence?
You're telling us you're building a multi-billion shilling road and a diversion. And the diversion is not even a kilometer.
No.
It's a few hundred meters. And it's virtually impassable. You're on that road and you're wondering, God Almighty.
What is happening here?
Yes.
This morning, for the last 2 weeks or so, from ABC Place, not ABC Place, from the mall in Westlands, coming towards town, there's a diversion.
Yes, there is.
And then you come and join the road again near Galileo. Now, the place where you're joining the road at Galileo is basically potholes. So you can imagine people who are driving, coming all the way from Western Kenya, wherever. You get to that point, 30 kilometers per hour, and then you come and do 0 kph so that you can get into a diversion. We can talk about inconveniences and all, but there are some things that just go beyond inconvenience. This is just sheer negligence. I'm avoiding using the word incompetence. I don't want to use the word incompetence. I just want to use the word negligence.
You don't want to use incompetence?
I don't want to use the word incompetence. Okay. And my complaint is to the CS in charge of transport, infrastructure, housing, urban development, James Macharia, and then the Principal Secretary in charge of Infrastructure, Professor Architect Paul Maringa, and the Director General of the Kenya National Highways Authority, Engineer Peter Mandinia. You're the people who are in charge of those projects. This is a complaint. Let's talk about agriculture, where we're not complaining about food security, despite the fact that we have food insecurity in the country and there are people who are facing starvation. But let's look towards the future. AgriTalk, where on this show we have conversations every so often promoting food security, agribusiness, and everything else, and looking at how we can get ourselves into better productivity and better than consumption and growing of our food. Having this conversation this morning is Eustace Kiarii. He is the CEO of the Kenya Organic Agriculture Network. And what we want to discuss today is something he'll explain to us, because we looked at it and we were like, I don't understand. Ecological organic agriculture. Eustace, karibu sana to the Situation Room. It's good to have you.
Thank you.
We call that the hot seat. Don't mind about all the complaints that we were doing earlier. We were speaking on your behalf. Now, this is a friendly conversation. We just put you on the hot seat, and then you enjoy the heat as you've come from a cold place outside there, and it's warm in here. So we can understand what a organic agriculture is, and then you tell us about ecological organic agriculture. Let's start with the organic agriculture, and then you can move to the new one.
Thank you very much for having me and having this discussion. As you rightly said, my name is Kiarii Eustace. I work for Kenya Organic Agriculture Network, where we promote organic agriculture. And why I promote organic agriculture is because, one, of food safety. There are numerous studies that have been done in the recent years that have shown that most of the products that we are consuming in the market are contaminated, either with pesticide residues or hormones or antibiotics and the rest of it. So we promote organic, excuse me. We promote organic because we want to promote safe foods to our people. And secondly is that organic agriculture practices sustain the health of the soils so that the soils can give or yield to healthy plants, healthy people, and healthy environment.
So organic is when you don't use pesticides and chemicals.
Not when you don't use pesticides, when you don't use synthetic pesticides. There are pesticides that are allowed in organic.
Okay.
The notion out there is that when you talk about organic, is where you just plant and wait for God to give you rains, and then they are not affected by pests.
Yeah.
Organic agriculture is a management system, just like the conventional one. It's only that some products are not allowed in organic, that are allowed in conventional.
Explain this a little bit. So you're saying there's some pesticides which are organic.
Yes.
Okay. Can you give an example of, not by the trademark names, but the sort of, for instance, if I use cow dung as manure, that's organic.
That's allowed in organic. And we encourage people to compost the manure.
Aha. Now explain this organic versus non-organic so that it's understood. Because anything that, in my mind as a layman, when I hear organic,
anything you've bought from the shop.
Yeah, organic.
It's packaged, it's organic.
So, please.
Yeah, the difference is the content of the product. If you look at the active ingredients in most of the conventional products, are usually synthetically made. For the ones that are allowed in organic, are usually extracts from either plants or a combination of biological living beings. So the difference is the ingredients in the product that you are using. For fertilizers, most of the synthetic fertilizers are resultants of petrochemicals.
Yeah.
But for organic fertilizers, they are usually from either composting or extracts or biological living organisms. Yes.
So remember, like the conversation we had, and I think you can correct me here, Eustace. The conversation we had with the Mwalimu from Isipe the other day, when we were talking about mangoes and looking at pre-harvest and post-harvest management of mangoes in Makueni in the project that they were running, and they said that they came up with this particular pest that can eat the other pest
other
that
Is bothering
bothering
the
our
mangoes. Yes.
So that is now what
Yeah.
you're talking about.
Yeah.
Not going into creating these things from petrochemicals.
Yeah.
I see. So then, what is ecological organic agriculture?
There are many terms that are used in to refer to organic agriculture. There's ecological organic agriculture, there's permaculture, some people call it sustainable agriculture. And the difference is, if you look at the similarities, is the principles behind the practices. The only difference is that either permaculture focuses more on the design, ecological organic agriculture incorporates both certified and the non-certified. But where the ecological organic agriculture term came from is that in 2011, in the ordinary session of the African Union Heads of State, they made a decision to support organic agriculture. And in their decision to support organic farming in Africa, they came up with an initiative called Ecological Organic Agriculture Initiative, which is a Pan-African initiative to promote organic agriculture in Africa. That's where the ecological organic agriculture term came from. Yeah.
All right. Looking at the common practice in the country, and even if we're looking beyond on the continent, it would seem that, and correct me if I'm wrong, it would seem that the synthetic way that you're talking about now, albeit the more dangerous when it comes to food safety, is the easier and cheaper option. Is that the case? That organic agriculture is actually more expensive to start and to maintain than is the other side of things?
ISIPE, it's good that you have mentioned ISIPE, together with other organizations such as CARO, the Kenya Agriculture Research Organization. They have undertaken long-term trials comparing organic systems and conventional systems for over 15 years. And their conclusion is that organic has done well than the conventional systems. In terms of productivity, in terms of economic profitability. Now, you ask yourself, why then is that not many people are getting to organic? One is about information, access to information. Not many people know. Organic agriculture is very knowledge intensive because if you're not using synthetic chemicals, then what alternatives do you have? Not many people know about these alternatives. And why is that? One of the reasons is that if you look at the education system, most of the graduates are trained on the conventional way. If you look at the research that has been done, most of it is towards the conventional way.
Right.
So people are inclined to adopt what they have been trained on. What is if you look at also the products, the conventional products are more than the organic products.
But comparing the two, conventional ways of agriculture and organic agriculture, for example, which is more expensive to practice?
The conventional.
The conventional is more expensive.
Yeah.
All right. So this could give rise to then why it's still being used, because there's a lack of information. People just don't know that it's more expensive to use the conventional form. People don't understand or have not been made privy to the benefits that organic agriculture actually would have. All right. So what has been done, or what is being done to then invite the proliferation of this information? How is it being spread?
Yeah, under the initiative that I talked about, for example, in Kenya, we have come together 4 organizations, that is Egerton University, Farm Kenya, which is a subsidiary of Standard Media Group, and Kenya Organic Agriculture Network, to bring together the expertise and experience of the different organizations. One, in terms of research, to validate some of the practices that farmers are practicing, Egerton University would undertake this research. And also to validate some of the products in the market. There are very many products in the market that are labeled organic, but the authenticity of that and whether they work, some of them are questionable. So we've come together so that Egerton, based on their expertise and experience in research, can help in validating the products and also the practices. Now, in terms of getting the information out, Farm Kenya, because again of its reach, will be packaging the information that will be coming from Egerton University to disseminate to farmers, extension officers, consumers, and to really show that organic works. And for us as COAN, our key strength is in market development.
Sure.
So we'll be looking at developing both local markets and also export markets. We are currently working with greengrocers, some supermarkets like Carrefour, who have established organic sections within their supermarket outlets.
Okay.
That is at the market end. But how about the production end? What are you doing to have more and more farmers actually producing like almost 100% of their produce as organic? And then you have certified that as truly has that badge of COAN or whoever, that this is truly organic.
Yeah, at the partnership, we are developing a platform, an online platform where an ordinary farmer, if they're growing tomatoes, for example, using a USD code or a smartphone, can request or can access the platform. If they're growing tomatoes, for example, and they have a challenge of blight, the system will be able to advise the farmer on the good agricultural practices that they need to adopt, the organic products available in the market, and also the less toxic products that they can use. So the approach is that it's three steps.
Okay.
Good agricultural practices so that you can avoid the infection. 2, the biological pesticides available, and the less toxic. And our intention is to reach before the end of this year, 500,000 farmers, so that they can produce organically.
Right.
Of course, there are other producers who are already organic, currently practicing organic, but our intention is to expand.
How does this affect the general? So if you look at the entire process, the chain, how does it then affect food security and safety? Because oftentimes you say food security, and the assumption is that if we have enough food for a sustainable period of time, then we've achieved food security. But then not looking at food safety and saying, okay, what are we actually consuming as a nation of people? How healthy are our people as a result of what is being consumed? Now, looking at these processes that start in the beginning, how would it affect the end result of what then the population as a whole is ingesting?
Yeah, that's a very good question, because mainly at times we always talk about food security without talking about food safety. And from some of the studies, or most of the studies that have been undertaken, most of the foods that we are buying from our markets have pesticide residues. And what we are doing in this partnership is to ensure that consumers can access safe food, that producers will not be using the toxic pesticides that will have residues within the food. So the resultant of that is that you have a safer nation, a healthier nation, because most of the pesticide residues we are talking about, they have been attributed to chronic illnesses such as cancer, diabetes, and allergies, among others. And so what we're doing is that we want organic foods to be accessible, to be affordable, and that every Kenyan can be able to consume safe, nutritious food.
There's a discussion, though, that is taking place in my mind with regards to what you call the synthetic additives that we use in the production of the foods we eat. Now, what seems to be implied is that they are not necessarily safe and they're not necessarily the best way to go. Is this a figment of my imagination or am I framing my argument correctly?
No, it's true that most of the pesticides, for example, that are used are not usually safe.
Now, why I bring forth this argument is because I want to understand what it is that your organization does to lobby or to have discussion with the government so that we actually halt the importation of these things. Because so long as that option exists in whatever form, then whatever process you are pushing forward will always be hampered. Because an option that may even appear to be cheaper or may be advertised as being advantageous and yet harmful is still there. So if that bit isn't taken care of in my mind, then even as you put forth this very, very, very necessary way of doing things into operation, your progress may not be quite what you purpose it to be.
It may be a slow burning one, it'll take a while. It requires the government to actually make it a policy at some point on how to do this. And that's why we're having this conversation, how to mainstream ecological organic agriculture into agricultural systems in Africa. And let's just start with in Kenya. So what is it that needs to be done? Having a conversation about food security, food safety and agribusiness with Eustace Kiarii, the CEO of the Kenya Organic Agriculture Network. Joining us on the line is Jokidhu, Farm Kenya project lead. And the conversation is about mainstreaming ecological organic agriculture into Kenya's agricultural systems. As we were going to the break, Eustace, City asked you, so first of all, confirmed that yes, many of the pesticides in the market have some residual harm. And then the other question was, City?
If steps are not taken to ensure that this harm is stopped from its very source, of course I'm rephrasing what I said, then all these processes, these organic processes that we are discussing here, well, not only will they come against a bulwark, but the benefits that we hope to derive from these processes will be watered down completely by what's already available in the market. Yes.
That's a very good observation and true. And in 2019, a study was done by Root to Food that was looking at the pesticides that have been registered by the Pest Control Produce Board. And out of the 230 active ingredients that were registered then, 77 of them had been banned in Europe. And because of either their potential effect on chronic human health effects, persistence to the environment and pollinators, and also their potential toxicity on water. And what we did is that 3 organizations, ourselves, COAN, Root to Food Kenya, and Biba Kenya, and Rodi Kenya, we petitioned PCPB through the Parliamentary Committee on Health to have these chemicals withdrawn. And the Parliamentary Committee on Health made a report, and among the things they requested PCPB to make a work plan on how they're going to withdraw some of these products. We are glad that PCPB has taken some action. They did a circular early this year, and part of the active ingredients that they are looking to review, some of them are the ones that we had identified. We only wish that the process of review will not be that long and that the products will be withdrawn from the market.
This is the Pest Control Products Board.
Yeah.
If you want to sell any of these, pest management products, you must go through Pest Control Products Board.
Yes.
Even if you're using the organic ones, like you said.
Yes.
And the process of getting this license is that the Pest Control Products Board has to see that this is actually applicable in the country.
Yes.
Right? At some point, they'll even require you to have a test farm, and you give them the report of how you've conducted the tests in the country, before they allow you to start selling these products in the country.
Yeah.
True?
True.
We discussed this a bit, and that's why I'm taking you through those steps. Is because we discussed this a couple of weeks back when it was in the news, with the PCPB saying, now we even have a team that we've established to review some of these products that are being sold in the market and to see which ones then we can continue licensing and those that we can de-license from the Kenyan market. Several things that came out, though. One, no specific timelines. You're not saying that we want to review this within a specified timeline, bearing in mind that in other markets, these things have been banned because of the harmful effects that they have on consumers. If we don't have timelines, and this is open-ended, this review can take 3 years, 4 years, 5 years, 10 years, 15 years. Or is there any part that says review is equals to maximum 5?
From the recommendations from the Parliamentary Committee report, they were given 90 days to report back. But as you correctly say, time is of essence, and the speed at which they are going to effect this, if it's not time-bound, then it can take forever. So, and this is why I said our wish is that they speed up the process to have these products out of the market.
I want to bring in Njoki. Njoki, though, is the project lead of Farm Kenya. It's a Standard Group initiative as well, the Farm Kenya TV. Njoki, good morning. She joins us on the phone. Good morning.
Good morning, everyone. How are you doing?
Very well, thank you. Now, Njoki, we're talking about how we can mainstream organic agriculture and promoting ecological organic agriculture and mainstreaming it into our agricultural system. I think from just that question by CT, it's talking about government and policy and saying this is how much effort we need to put into it. And then there are organizations such as the COAN and Standard Group and the others who are doing their bits on the ground. But from where you stand, Njoki, what role should the government play in mainstreaming this into our agriculture systems?
Okay, thank you so much for that, Eric. For me, uniquely positioned in the private sector and media for agriculture, the government actually has a lot to cover to ensure that we adopt ecological organic agriculture. If I may digress a bit, because it's been stated that agriculture has the greatest potential to helping the world actually achieve the around 5 or 6 sustainable development goals. That is around zero hunger, no poverty, good health and well-being, life on land, climate action, life in water or underwater. And it's through ecological organic agriculture that we can be able to actualize all these sustainable development goals. So for me, the government actually should go beyond policy making and looking into how they can encourage our population to adapt agriculture to actually being the active campaigner or active player in ensuring that everyone actually looks into organic agriculture as an alternative way of practicing agriculture. Why do I say that the government needs to champion for this? Because through organic agriculture, we are able to ensure that our country is food secure and that we have stable agricultural ecosystems that are producing safe food for our population. And then this actually translates into how our people work, because once you eat safe food, then you have lesser diseases, lesser issues, and then a healthier population is actually a population that is able to sustain the economy of our country.
Right.
So for me, yes, so the government should go beyond policy making to actually championing for this.
Right. So going beyond policy making, in my opinion, also then means that there must be an appetite on the part of government to actually have this as an initiative for the country. So beyond saying what the policy must say, then I see it beyond that as almost something that must take up a major part of the thinking. Because you can say it can be in policy, but then it must go then to the point of implementation, and you must have an appetite for that. Are we seeing that there's an appetite on the part of government to actually include this in the ways of practice? And even as you think about, as you answer that, we're looking at the practitioners of agriculture as the farmers in this country. Is there an appetite also on their behalf, on their part, to go into this full throttle?
Okay. So I would say the government is actually taking strides towards ensuring that organic agriculture is part of our agricultural practices as a country. Like what my colleague said, that is Eustace, we have CALRO, which is the parastatal that is mandated to practice agricultural research and extension, participating in organic agriculture. We have Egerton University itself, again, another government institution, which is championing for organic agriculture in the country. So I'd say, yes, they are taking steps, but we need to go on a larger scale and see not just these two organizations, and see more of government institutions, ministries, and the likes taking on organic agriculture. Then on to your second part of the question, do we see farmers being attracted by organic agriculture? Yes. I think we had, I can't remember exactly who said that, but someone alluded to that organic agriculture could be expensive. The reason as to why we thought that is because when you go to the supermarket and you compare produce that has been grown through the conventional way and you compare organic produce, it usually turns out that the organic produce normally fetches a higher premium than the conventional way. So I would say yes, because organic produce gives farmers a better return. So farmers actually are interested in understanding how can they practice and access this organic market. Then the other part of this formula would be consumers themselves. Are we as a Kenyan population asking for safe organic food when we go to procure or when you go to buy the produce that we consume in our kitchens? So this is a call to each and every person, whether you're practicing agriculture or not, because definitely 3 times a day we are going to consume food. So you should be looking out for produce from this kind of agriculture.
Eustace, I want to come to you. You told us in 2011, African Union heads of state and government sat and they decided, yes, we are going to go into supporting organic agriculture in the continent. Now, since then, coming to the part of the government of Kenya, what has the government of Kenya done to support this conversation? For example, is there a budgetary allocation that goes straight and says, this is for promoting organic agriculture and such other programs?
Thank you for the question. The structure of the initiative is that it's housed at the African Union Commission. At regional blocks, there are regional committees. And at national level, there are national platforms. So in Kenya, we have a Kenya National Ecological Organic Agriculture Platform, which is chaired by the Ministry of Agriculture. And the Ministry of Agriculture has also set up an interministerial committee to develop the ecological organic agriculture strategy. So in terms of support, we have seen that the ministry is very supportive. To the extent of giving budgetary allocations, this has not happened because the idea ideally is that there should be a policy or a strategy that will guide the budgetary allocations. So far, this has not happened. However, there are some county governments, for example, the Kiarii County, who have gone an extra mile to develop an organic agriculture policy. Counties like Murang'a, who are subsidizing organic inputs. So both at national and county government level, we have seen lots of progress. And it's our wish that in the few coming years, we're going to have budgetary allocations so that we champion these noble cause.
What has been the impact of those two initiatives by those two county governments you mentioned, Kiambu and Murang'a, to support organic. What do you see?
Like in Muranga, there's a lot of business for organic farmers, especially on avocados. And the county government is subsidizing the organic farmers who are doing that, who are practicing. And the levels of adoption also have increased. We are seeing more and more farmers getting into it. You see, if the government says something or leads in something, then it's about to be followed rather than organizations like us, pushing it. Yeah.
Okay, and coming from from then the consumption side of things, so we're looking at communities as a whole, individuals, families, etc., etc. Are we seeing that there's again more appetite on this side for organic farming, because then it directly involves or affects your health at the end of the day, and then contributions toward food safety and security? How do I know? I mean, like you said, somebody can call something organic, it is not. How are we sure what you're buying and what you're ingesting? And what are some things that you can actually look out for?
Yeah, to answer the first question is that we have seen an increase in people demanding for organic products. And this is a result of, health has become an issue, and people are suffering different various conditions. And they want, and again, even if you're not suffering, everybody wants to live a healthy life. People are conscious about their health, and therefore we have seen an increase in the number of consumers who are demanding for organic products. Now, how do you differentiate an organic tomato at the supermarket? One is that there's a process called organic certification. And organic certification is a process certification. That means it's not the tomato that will be subjected to the lab, but it's the process of growing that tomato that will be certified. From the time you plant, how you manage your pests and diseases, by the time you process, by the time it gets to the shelf. And in East Africa, we have the East Africa Product Organic Standards, which are the custodianship of Kenya Bureau of Standards, which after following those standards, you're allowed to use the Kilimo Hai mark. It's a small mark called Kilimo Hai, which is placed on the products, the certified organic products. So, of course, because we do not have a legislation that says you cannot use the word organic, then you find everybody is labeling their products as organic.
Yes.
Yeah. So until we have the government commitment, we have a legislation put in place like there are any other places in the world where you cannot just put the word organic on your product. It has to follow the standard. Then we cannot, it's up to that point where we can guarantee.
You can only go that far. I like the fact that there has been a development of a standard, and the standard is even recognized and placed under Kenya Bureau of Standards. There's also the new development as well on food safety, and there's a new standard that's been developed on safe food, which also is a process standard as well. However, now that's why I'm just getting. We have so many standards coming in. As a consumer, I'm going into the market. I'm looking for Kilimo Hai. If I want to look for, organically produced, and then there's the other food safety in terms of growing and handling. At some point, don't you think there'll be a confusion? Because if there's a separate standard on this is safe food, but it has been produced using some unsafe products, for example, like the synthetic pesticides, but it still has received a safety standard and a badge on the market, and yours does not have all those, but it has also Kilimo Hai badge. It's confusing to me as a consumer. Which one do I trust? Which one do I know is actually better?
The food safety standard you are referring to is the one, the idea behind it is that when you are exporting, producers are required to follow good agricultural practices. And good agricultural practices do not necessarily restrict use of some chemicals. They only provide for some post-harvest intervals. So the food safety standard that is being championed by KEFIS and also KEBS is that as much as we are so much concerned about the exports, let's also be concerned about
local consumers.
So it's up to the point of handling and ensuring that there's limited use of these pesticides. But for organic, it's explicit. It's that there are certain products that you're not allowed to use. So you are assured that there will be no residues. Whereas in the other one, there could be residues, but at least you have some assurance that
Some minimum
they have
levels.
gotten some minimum levels. So it's like a minimum bar
Yeah.
and a top
And
bar.
a higher bar.
A higher bar.
Joki, back to you. In terms of promoting this in the market, because Eustace was telling us their organization is also very much involved in the market development, but in terms of promoting this to the market, to the consumer, so that then consumers can start creating that demand for organic, what are you doing at Farm Kenya?
Okay, thank you for that. So at Farm Kenya, our main duty in the consortium is to ensure that we communicate to both the farmers and the consumers. So part of our activities is organizing these kind of conversations like the one that we are having today to ensure that our listeners are, one, educated on what organic agriculture is, and two, they are aware that they actually have choices whenever they go out there to buy produce for their home consumption. And number three, also educate the different decision makers in the agricultural sector on what needs to be done in the country to ensure that we mainstream organic agriculture. For example, there could be someone listening to this conversation today, and they are the ones who are actually required to draft these kind of policies and also lobby and push for them in government spaces. So these are the kind of initiatives Farm Kenya has undertaken to ensure that people are aware about ecological organic agriculture. Apart from these kind of conversations, we also do one-on-one kind of events where we set up, could be breakfast discussions with different policy makers, decision makers, and influencers in the sector. It could be farmer field days where we talk to farmers and educate them about ecological organic agriculture. And all these are compounded, or rather, they are complemented by the different media platforms that Farm Kenya runs under Standard Media Group.
Thank you very much. And thank you very much for joining us as well this morning. Joki, who is a project lead at Farm Kenya, and Eustace Kiarii. He is the CEO of the Kenya Organic Agriculture Network, KOAN. Thank you for having us, and in fact, for joining us. And in fact, we'd like to invite you again soon so we can continue this conversation. Many people would like to know more about organic farming, about organic produce.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.